उनकी अनुमति से मैं कार्यक्रम शुरू करना चाहता हूँ। ये भी शायद उपस्थित हैं क्या? उनके उपस्थित की हम लोग थोड़ा सा प्रतीक्षा कर लेते हैं, क्योंकि मैडम के व्याख्यान के पहले हम चाहते हैं कि इस गूढ़ रहस्यों के लिए वो थोड़ी सी भूमिका के रूप में 2 शब्द का उद्बोधन करेंगे जेपी शाह जी। तो हम लोग थोड़ी उनकी प्रतीक्षा कर लेते हैं जेपी शाह जी के। आप जुड़े हैं कि नहीं अभी? हाँ जुड़िए, क्योंकि मैं आपकी प्रतीक्षा कर रहा हूँ। हमारे प्रोफेसर जेबी शाह जी अभी जुड़ रहे हैं, और उसके बाद में हम लोग कार्यक्रम का शुभारंभ करेंगे। दूसरा व्याख्यान मैडम का बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण था, और करीबी हम लोग लेते रहेंगे। तो सभी श्रोताओं से निवेदन है कि वो सार रूप में जो महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न है वो अवश्य उसको प्रस्तुत करेंगे। और क्योंकि बहुत सारे ऐसे रहस्य हैं जो वक्ताओं श्रोताओं के मन में होते हैं, उनका स्पष्टीकरण हो जाता है। तो हम 2 या 3 प्रश्न जरूर समाहित करते हैं, और आज भी यही प्रयास रहेगा हम लोगों का। संख्या पूरी हो चुकी है मुझे लगता है। हाँ, आ गए हैं। तो जीतू भाई, मैं आपकी आज्ञा से कार्यक्रम का शुभारंभ कर रहा हूँ।
हाँ जी आप कीजिए।
ओम नमः सिद्धेभ्या। सभी को सादर। भारत के मंदिर एवं स्थापत्य कला में समुपस्थित इस कार्यक्रम के सूत्रधार या निदेशक, जैन एवं भारतीय विद्याओं के लिए समर्पित प्रोफेसर जेबी शाह जी, जिनकी दूरदर्शिता पूर्ण दृष्टि के कारण यह कार्यक्रम हम लोग देख सुन पा रहे हैं। साथ में इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने में जिन्होंने अपने द्रव्य का सदुपयोग किया है, ऐसे श्री राजकुमार जी ओसवाल, श्री निर्मल भोगीलाल जी मुंबई, स्मृति श्रेष्ठ डॉक्टर धनेश जी की स्मृति में उनका परिवार एवं मातुश्री राजकुमारी सुमेरचंद जी परिवार का हम हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं। इस कार्यक्रम की प्रस्तोत्री डॉक्टर पवन कुमार जी का, जिनका अधिक परिश्रम एवं पूरे जीवन के अध्ययन का फल हमें प्राप्त हो रहा है, उनका भी हम स्वागत करते हैं। जूम एवं यूट्यूब से जुड़े हुए सभी प्रबुद्ध श्रोतागण का हम हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं। आज तीसरे दिन हम डॉक्टर पवन जी का सचित्र मंदिरों की स्थापत्य कला की तरह ही इकोनोग्राफी एंड इकोनोलॉजी ऑफ स्टोन एंड ब्रॉन्ज स्कल्पचर पर विस्तार से उनका व्याख्यान देखेंगे और सुनेंगे। इसके पहले इस गूढ़ रहस्यों को समझने के लिए प्रस्तावना के रूप में मैं निवेदन करूंगा प्रोफेसर शाह जी से कि 2 शब्दों में एक भूमिका स्पष्ट करें, जिससे कि लोगों को उनका विषय आसानी से बोधगम्य हो सके। श्री जितेंद्र जी शाह जी।
नमस्कार प्रोफेसर विजय कुमार जैन जी एवं इस पूरे कार्यक्रम के व्याख्यात्री डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी, मैं आपको प्रणाम करता हूं। भोगीलाल लहरचंद इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंडोलॉजी के द्वारा भारतीय मूर्तिकला एवं स्थापत्य के इस ऑनलाइन सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स के आज तृतीय व्याख्यान में मैं सभी प्रतिभागियों का स्वागत करता हूं। भारत देश अनेक विविधताओं से भरा हुआ है। भारत देश के पूर्व मनीषियों ने, शिल्पियों ने, स्थपतियों ने अद्भुत कार्य किया है। हमारे देश में प्राचीन काल से ही मूर्ति कला का प्रारंभ हो गया था। मूर्ति का निर्माण अलग अलग तरीके से किया जाता था। पाषाणों में मूर्तियां बनाई जाती थी, धातुओं में मूर्तियां बनाई जाती थी, कभी कभी मिट्टी से भी मूर्तियों का निर्माण किया जाता था। इन सभी दृष्टि से देखा जाए तो भारत का मानस कला प्रिय और अपनी विरासत को सुरक्षित रखने में हमेशा प्रयत्नशील रहा है। भारतीय स्थापत्य में जो रहस्य छिपे हुए हैं, कई बातें उसमें जुड़ी हुई है। उसके साथ जमीन कैसी होनी चाहिए, जमीन के विभिन्न तत्वों का किस प्रकार से उपयोग करना चाहिए, पृथ्वी, पानी, अग्नि, वायु, आकाश आदि का भी यहाँ ख्याल किया गया था। और मंदिर में जाने वाले का मन प्रसन्न हो, शांत हो और परम तत्व के साथ उसका मिलन हो सके, उसके लिए पूरा ध्यान रखा गया। धातुओं में मूर्तियों का निर्माण प्रत्येक धर्म ने अलग अलग ढंग से किया है। धातुओं पर अंकित प्रतिमाएं, धातुओं में से निर्मित प्रतिमाएं, धातुओं पर आलेखित यंत्र और तंत्र के प्रयोग, ये सभी बात भारतीय मानस के अंदर पड़े हुए वैज्ञानिक तथ्य को उजागर करती है। आज हमें डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी धातुओं में किस प्रकार से कला का निर्माण हुआ, पत्थरों में किस प्रकार से मूर्ति एवं मंदिरों के निर्माण का प्रारंभ हुआ, आदि काल से वर्तमान काल तक विभिन्न प्रकार के पत्थरों में स्थापत्य का और मूर्तियों का, कला का निर्माण करने का जो एक भव्य पुरुषार्थ हमारे पूर्वजों ने किया है, उसका परिचय हमें आज डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी कराएंगे। आपने विगत व्याख्यानों से अनुभव किया ही होगा कि बहुत बड़े परिश्रम और जीवन भर के शिक्षा के और स्थापत्य के प्रति जो उनकी तपश्चर्या है, उस तपश्चर्या का परिणाम हम देख रहे हैं। मैं अधिक समय नहीं लूंगा। मैं डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी को विनंती करूंगा कि आप पधारें, माइक संभालें और आज के विषय पर प्रकाश डालें।
धन्यवाद जितेंद्र भाई जी शाह, जय कुमार जी जैन और समस्त उपस्थित श्रोतागण। Very, very warm welcome back, I would say that. And yeah, without much ado, we can straight away start with our today's lecture. Yeah. So everybody is able to see my screen, I guess. Yeah. Everybody can see and hear me, I guess. Loud and clear. Yeah? Okay. Dr. Binay Burman has something to say. Your Your hand is raised. Please put it down if you don't have anything to say. Yeah, okay. So, iconography, iconology of religious stone and bronze sculptures. What do we mean by that? What is iconography, first of all? So, the very word iconography comes from the Greek language. So, it is the meaning of icon is an image, and graphy is to write or to draw, which means that how do we interpret any kind of image in that sense, or how do we make an image? Okay, so there are different traditional and conventional images that we are going to be talking about. And of course, the pictorial material that is relating to, or which is related to illustrating of a particular subject, or the imagery or the symbolism that any work of art or any artist or body of art that carries. So we need to explain that. And also any symbols which are used, any art movement also, right? And in fact, it is there is a conventional significance which is attached to these kind of symbols. Okay. And iconology is basically nothing but method of interpretation. We all know logos means studying biology. We have all understood this while growing up. Okay, so in Greek language, logos means to study, all right, to understand or interpret. So iconology is nothing but a method of interpretation in cultural history and the history of visual art. Okay, so these are the two different terms that we are going to be using repeatedly today evening. Okay. So what are the different kinds of icons that we come across when we talk about temples or temple architecture or sculptures? So we say the Chal Murtis or the Achal Murtis or the Dhruva Murtis or Chal Achal. So what do I mean by that? So Chal Murtis are something that we take out in as Utsav Murtis or in these religious processions, right? So they are moving. They are not stationed in one place all the time. And then there are Dhruv Murtis, which are made of stone. In fact, they are pretty much grounded wherever they are stationed, and you cannot move them, right? And then there are Chal Achal Murtis, like some sculptures or icons. For most of the time, most of the year, they are stationed in one place, but in a particular instance or at a particular occasion that we try to move them, right? So these are the different terms that we, by way of which we address the main icons. Then there are different terminologies that we used. We used to address these different, icons. We call them beras or murtis, vigraha, pratima, bimba, pratika, rupa, archa, etc., etc. And then there are different aspects also. There are yoga murtis, the bhoga murtis, the vira, the abhicharika, etc., etc. Okay. So just this is in very, very brief, I've told you that what we are going to be studying today. Yeah. So these are various textual sources that give us a lot of information on Indian religious imagery and also their meanings and what is their significance. So Vedas, of course, are the primary source. Then the Vedic text, Purans, the later Vedic literature, the Puranas, the Upanishads, etc., etc. Then Matsya Puran, 10th chapter, talks about Shiva's, iconography. Then Agni Puran, 16th chapter, describes iconography in great detail. Vishnu Dharmotar Puran also actually is a very nice text to refer to because there is there are few chapters which are totally dedicated for the making of the icon. And in fact, we have always stressed upon this, that any form of art, for that matter, same rules will apply, whether it is art of painting or whether it is art of sculpting, for that matter. then Agama literatures, the Shilp Shastras, the science of Shilpa that it talks about. There are Jain literature, 11 Anga texts that talk about what kind of iconography the Jain, icons should have, the different Tirthankars, the Trishashti Shalak Purusha, etc., etc. Then Buddhist sources also, the different Nikayas, the Jatakas, the Pitaka texts, etc., etc. Okay. So this is what we get from the various texts. Now, first we will talk about the different parts also that I discussed in my last session, and what is their significance, and the icons or the pratima or the murti that we have located in those places, what do they signify? Okay. So we always have to keep this in mind, that temple is a monument of manifestation, and all the constituents of the temple, plan and elevation, they all they partake in it. Okay. So thus the sanctum has usually just the one door in front and false doors, or the ghanadwaras, or in the form of niches that we see, the central projection that we see along outside the Garbhagriha wall, all right, on the remaining three sides where the door is not there. So what we are looking at on the screen, these are the niches or the ghanadwaras. So the ghanadwara actually is a paradoxical name, because it is a niche. It is not a door as such. It is a massive door which actually expresses the coming forth of the image which is there inside, and through these massive walls of the temple. And that's why the name the Gandhara. There is no gate here, or it's not a window. It is just a niche in the, all right. And although these are very, very massive windows, and there is nothing that can, come through them, but we say that, or the texts rather say that, it is the luminous power of the deity, or the consecrated symbol that we have inside, or the supreme principle which is there inside the Garbhagriha, which is actually irradiated from within, and it is revealed in these cardinal niches that we have in the form of significant aspect of that same deity which is there inside. So probably sometimes you will have the Parivar Devtas, or the deities which are associated with the family of the deity which is there inside the Garbhagriha, or sometimes different aspect of the deity which is there inside. They are being stationed in these niches, closely related to the presiding deity which is there inside. And also the lesser aspect, I would say, of the presiding deity, they find a place in these minor niches, projections, etc., or the recesses of the walls. Okay, so these are the Gandhwaras, or the main projections on the Garbhagriha wall on the outside. Okay. So here, just for an example, this is a temple which is dedicated to Vishnu. So in one of the niches outside, we have Sheshai Vishnu reclining on the cosmic serpent here. So this is because it is dedicated to Vishnu. So the niche will also have something related to the same deity. Then we talk about the threshold, or the Udambara. Udambara is this part here, where we enter the main Garbhagriha. All right, here. So normally you will find a very long-stemmed lotus, which is a symbol of the universe in which divinity is established. Symbol also is actually a state of kind of dispassion of the bhakta, or the devotee, in which divinity is revealed to him. And above it, in fact, the image in the Garbhagriha appears in fact raised to the bhakta who approaches it, and while he's about to enter the innermost sanctuary, he too is raised to that status of the divinity, isn't it? We talk about the nyasa. What is the the practice of nyasa? It is we say that as the body of the devotee, so also the body of the image which is touched in 6 places, isn't it? This is how we do the darshan. So, which is called the Shadanganyasa. So the constituent elements, in fact, of the world and its principles are assigned to from the feet to the place of the heart, in fact. By this, when we are touching the different parts of the body, it is felt alive and with the breath of the cosmos. All right. Then we have the Pradakshina Path or the circumambulation. This is what I'm trying to show you in this particular image here. And this is the very famous Lakshman temple from Khajuraho. So if you follow my cursor, this is the main Garbhagriha and this is the Pradakshina Path all around. And these are the Gandhwaras or the niches, or the outside wall of the Garbhagriha. So this is the Pradakshina Path. All right. So it is the closeness of all these carved images and the worshipper in one place is brought to its maximum in the inner ambulatory or the circumambulation which surrounds the Garbhagriha in that sense. And this rite of circumambulation or the Pradakshina I've already spoken about it, is more like a communion with by the movement with the images which are stationed alongside the Pradakshina Path on the walls. Then it is less of a visual recognition of these images or the identity and the perfection of their workmanship. Rather than that, I think we are more concerned with that we are in communion with the main deity, which is present in the main Garbhagriha. Then let's talk. We are entering here. These are the door jambs, we call them, and this is the door lintel here. I hope everybody can follow my cursor. I think that will really help you what we are talking about. So door jambs or the dwar shakhas, as we call it, in this respect, the door is the god through whom man actually enters into the presence of the supreme principle in the Garbhagriha and its seat in the consecrated image that is there. So to be able to enter into the supreme presence, man also has to undergo a lot of transmutation, as I just said, that he also has to rise himself to the level of God. For only when he has acquired a celestial body himself is he qualified to pass the company of the gods inside and confront the supreme presence beyond the form and which dwells in the divinity inside the Garbhagriha. Okay. So the transformation or regeneration which man has to undergo is promoted by the divinities of the door jambs, I would say. So so there is a double function, as it is also the place of exit, all right, or manifestation of the deity, and as place of entry also of the transformed bhakta. And the door, that's why it's called the mukha or the mouth, which is akin to the kirti mukha that we will talk about very shortly. Okay. So the divinities of the door jamb, the river goddesses accompanied by the retinue, the different shakhas, they show life as young and very quick, very charged, I would say, procreative couples. You will see the ganas, there are ganas are some kind of celestials that we will be talking about. The creepers, the serpents interlaced, all these are the things that we see on the Dwarshakas. All these sculptures, in fact, sculptural metamorphosizes and elaboration of the theme of the river goddess, for it is from their waters that, they rise. All right. So the rivers, you can see the river goddesses on the two sides. So initially, these river goddesses used to be on the door lintel on two sides, as they are said to descend from the heaven to earth. So on entrance of the early temples, you would find them on the door lintel on two sides. Their images were carved, and then later, of course, they were brought down on the door jamb pedestals, in fact. Okay. So there is there's some kind of symbology here, and to look at them is almost equal in effect to the ritual bath in their waters. initiation, or you can call it diksha or ablution or transmutation at the entrance. Okay. So to enter, the presence of rivers actually purifies the devotees from all taints of his human state. Okay. And it is kind of the whole, the door or the dwar shaka, in fact, metamorphoses into some kind of natural tirtha, as we call it. Then we talk about the dwarpalas. So the very inception of new life is beset with lot of dangers. Okay, danger when I say not physical dangers, but I think from the mental blocks that we have when we are entering the temple, and we have to overcome all of those. So guardians of the threshold or the dwar shakhas are basically the most enduring images. And when, all the perils they have to be warded off, and all kind of contamination with the impurities of the world, they need to be prevented. They are the agents of the image that is there inside the garbhagriha, and it's the smaller version of the image which is there inside is present on the lalat bimb. Lalat is the head, as we call it. This is the lalat, right? And bimb is the image here. So a miniature image of whatever is present inside the garbhagriha, that image or any aspect of that image, normally you will find on the lalat bimb, right? And this is also a very, very important tool by way of which we as devotees or as art historians also, even if the image is missing inside the garbhagriha, like we have in many ancient temples, just by looking at the image on the lalat, we will, immediately come to know that what must have been the dedication of this particular temple. So, in fact, the lalat, is the celestial region with the image of the main divinity, and also you will normally find the images of navgrahas on the lalat. Okay, so these are, of course, again, I'm showing you the dwarpalas. Sometimes they are, they are all the time protecting the entrance to a shrine in relief. At times, they are very, very large, unlike the earlier one that I showed you. And this is a typical characteristic of South Indian temples or Dravid temples, very large, humongous, and very gruesome, terrible countenance, making the worshipper wary of the entering and prompting him to leave behind all the ills and vices and the taints of human life, right? So this is another way of looking at the dwarpalas. Then iconography of the entrance has double function that I have already spoken about. These are very, very beautiful terracotta sculptures that we have from Gupta period, from one of the temples from Ahichatra, Bareilly, which is called today. Okay. So, in fact, sometimes you will also find sculpture of Gajalakshmi on the lintel. So, in fact, Lakshmi is also the Varuni, or the energy and wealth of waters. We know she came out of the churning of the ocean, and it is to the deathless and supreme principle the door leads as the place of initiation. Okay. Then let's talk about the vahanas. We all know there are different vahanas which are attached or attributed to different divinities. Such, we have Garud, Vishnu's vahana, Hansa, Saraswati, Peacock, Kartikeya, Mushaka, Ganesh vahan. Elephant is Indra's vahan. Then deer, Makar, of course, is Ganga, the river goddess. Ganga's vahan. Kachapa, or the tortoise, is Yamuna's vahan, etc., etc. Okay. So, normally in South Indian temples, you will have a separate pavilion, the Vahan pavilion, the vehicle of the divinity, which is enshrined in this miniature temple facing the entrance, which is on the same axis as the Garbhagriha. So the Vahan actually conveys the deity, and he actually is the counterpart of the image which is enshrined inside the prasad, and framed by the doorway. It actually leads to the entrance, I would say. So Nandik Dwara, also known as Adhikar Nandi, is the head of the Ganas of Shiva and also his Vahana, carrier vehicle. So symbolically, I would say, the bull represents all the intrinsic animal instincts, especially the sex. And Shiva's riding on it reflects his almost, absolute control over it. And other attendants of Shiva's are, of course, the Ganas, also known as Pramat Ganas or the Bhut Ganas, which are the demigods or some kind of malignant spirits, if not propitiated well, right? They can also bring some kind of harm to us, right? Another element on temple walls that we see is the Gavaksha. Gavaksha actually is the name, very term Gavaksha or Gava, which is plural of Go, are the rays of the sun. The ray as well as the sun is called the Goa, and Aksha is the eye. Okay. So it is basically the sun or the ray, and Aksha means the sun wheel or the ray wheel. All right. And why do we have them on temple walls? So first of all, where is this image coming from? The very shape of the Gavaksha. Here we have the bent, bamboo structure. And this is basically is the shape of the Gavaksha. And this is the earliest Gavaksha arch. It is also called the Chandrashala sometimes. Yeah. So this is the shape of the Gavaksha, which actually I'm showing you the Lomas Rishi cave near Patliputra, one of the Mauryan monuments, which were these are the rock cut caves, which was initially they were dedicated. They belonged to the Ajivika sect of that time. Okay. And then sometimes you will also find this here on the Shuka Nasi. Shuka means the nose. And this is the Antaral, when I told you the outer mandap and the Garbhagriha. The conjoining area is called the Antaral or the vestibule, right? And here Shuka Nasi means like a nose like that of a parrot, because it is protruding from this area. So normally you will find on temple shikhars on the superstructure where the antaral or the vestibule is there, you will find this kind of a structure. Okay. And sometimes you will find on all four sides of the shikhar also, especially in South Indian temples for that matter. Okay. Now, in fact, in most of the North Indian temples, you will find these miniature Gavakshas. Do you see? It is almost a web or a jala of all these miniature Gavakshas, which are kind of covering the entire superstructure, or they're kind of providing kind of a sheath. All right. So what is the meaning of this? So is it because they are called the Gavakshas, or they are not really windows, or they are not letting in any kind of sun or air from outside? In fact, the very function of these Gavakshas is basically the light from inside of the Garbhagriha, which is actually being transmitted from the Garbhagriha to all the different walls of the temple and all around the temple, horizontally and also in its vertical ascension. Okay. So, in fact, there are parts of this. These Gavakshas are very, very important, and sometimes you will also find them rising in a very, very rhythmic, rhythmic order that they ascend or descend. And with a slight shift, you will get a new kind of motive, like here you can see one above the other, but in this side you can see there is a slight shift. By way of that slight shift, I don't know how many of us are aware of the musical when we are, doing the samtal, and then it is you are leaving one tal like this, right? And this is how it is when there is a slight shift. And it actually provides a very, very beautiful decorative motif also for that matter. So I hope everybody has understood. So these gavakshas are basically the light or the rays of not really the sun, but that's the literal meaning of it, which are being radiated from within the Garbhagriha to outside, right? Okay. So walls of the temples are basically transmuted into all kinds of carvings, images, which are the meaning of which kind of bring the meaning to the entire temple in the images of the Digpalas or the Pratiharas, Apsaras, Ganas, the lesser goddesses, Mithunas, Shardul, Kirtimukhas, etc. So Kirtimukha, what is a Kirtimukha? Or a face of glory, no? Kirti, Mukh, or the face of glory. It's a lion iconography, which is actually incorporated across Indian religions, be it Buddhist, Jain, or the Vedic religion or Brahminic religion or Hindu religion, as we call it. And these are some of in fact, not only in India, in all of South Asia, you will find them. So it has the face of face and man. It has the face and, in fact, the mane. This area are fused in which is that of a lion, a ferocious roaring lion. That's how it is, with a protruding tongue and, huge fangs, bulbous eyes, very, very fiery eyes, and raised hair, gaping mouth. This is the iconography. This is how these Kirtimukhas are almost, most of the time depicted. And this countenance is actually a fusion of animal and man, which in this form of a mask, I would say, which is inflated. You would see this area always inflated with breath, bulging with power, and modeled in the dark grin, actually, of death's skull. And in fact, Kirti Mukha is also known as Singha Mukha in North India, Rahul Mukher Mala in Orisen temple architecture, Graspati in Gujarat, and Kal in Eastern India. So it is thus the threshold guardian to maturity. And it is also, it is normally placed at the entrance of the doors, pillars, corners of ceilings, or above the sculptures of deities. In fact, forming an arch above the deity, or, typically sometimes some kind of vegetation is also emerging from their mouths. So here you can see on top of the Chandrashala, here you can see there is a Kirti Mukha here. And here, of course, this is in detail I'm trying to show. And so sometimes they are also called as the deities of the vegetation, or Vanaspati by themselves. They are also present at the helm of the Chandrashalas, like here I've shown you, or this is also called the dormer windows, because there's a projection here, or on the Shukanasi of the temple. That's what it is right now, and we are looking at. So when it is used as a repetitive motif at the base of the temple, they are also known as the Grasapatika. So grass is also another name for Kirtimukha. So they are supposed to be there for, they act as the protector deity, and mostly they are attributed to a device by way of warding off all kinds of evils that may come upon the temple or the devotee, for that matter. Okay. So another image that we have on the temple walls is there are a group of sculptures which are called the Vyala, or the Shardul, as we call it. So this is actually a mythological character, the body or head of a lion. And sometimes other animals also you can find in that. And in fact, there are 16 or 18 kinds of Vyalas that the Vastu Shastra talks about. And this actually represents ignorance or Maya also. So normally we will find two warriors. So one warrior is actually, he approaches the Vyala with this, shield of dispassion. All right, here you can see he's holding a shield and a kind of another weapon. And there is another person who is actually riding the Vyala, who actually brandishes the sword of knowledge. So it is only, these people with knowledge and dispassion that they are capable of riding the Byala, or in another terms, they are capable of overcoming the Maya or illusion or one's desires or ego also for that matter. Okay. Then, of course, we have the Sura Sundaris also on the temple walls, which are normally flanked by the two sides of the main deity in the center, and Shardul also on the two sides. So there are many different reasons for the presence of the Sura Sundaris. In fact, it is said that they are basically representation of the power of the nature, or the Shakti, which is present in the nature. Okay. And we'll talk about them in great detail when we come to later temples, maybe Khajuraho temples. Yeah. So Mithun temple, we come across this term very, very regularly. So what is a Mithun? Just as a man who is, in close embrace by, by his beloved woman, or he knows nothing more or less when he's in that tight embrace, or at another level when the Atma is in, very closely, they are attached with the Prajnatma, all right, or the ultimate Godhead. They know nothing more or less without or within. So this is the true, true form in which all his desires are satisfied, or the whole of his, he has no desire anymore or any pain in that sense. So this state, which is like a man and a woman in close embrace, is a symbol of moksha. Okay, because that's when you don't desire anything, or a final release or reunion of the two principles, the essence, the Purush, and the nature, the Prakriti. So this symbol, which is carved on the door jambs of the Garbhagriha and on the walls of the temple, is repeatedly, it is carved, and in many forms in which their limbs are kind of conjoined in close embrace, as we are seeing on the screen right now. So the very name of this conjoined symbol of Purush and Prakriti as moksha is Mithun. All right. So there is nothing vulgar about this particular term, because most of the time in tantric parlance, there are some very esoteric meanings which are attached to it, and some people misinterpret that engaging in some kind of sexual activities may lead you to attainment of moksha, etc. It is actually very, very symbolic here. It is not actual, getting into the practice. All right. So this very state of being a couple, we are talking about Purush and Prakriti here, right? Then two more things that we want to talk about. The Amlaka on top. Amala means something which is amala, stain, without any stain or without impurity. Or Amalsar is the pure essence. Both these names are descriptive of this high region where we have the celestial world, all right, on here, and this is the physical world below this, all right. And normally you will find on the top of the shikhar, and which is highly ribbed, which actually, the ribs actually also represent the different facets of the temple, which actually are coming together in this Amlaka, and it is kind of clasping it together. And this is where the we are, moving into the another plane, or the higher plane above the Amlaka. And then, of course, we have the Kalash and the Stupi. Stupi is, of course, the final finial which is sometimes made up of gold, or which is sometimes, gilded also, just above the Kalash, or the golden Kalash, or the jar. Okay. Okay. Having spoken about different parts of the temple and their significance and the different divinities which we have, let's talk about the various Hindu gods and goddesses and how we normally see them in temples or otherwise in paintings, etc. Okay, so we all, some of us may know about the Dashavatars, which are the 10 primary avatars, or the incarnations of Vishnu. Dash means 10 and avatars means the incarnations. The principal Hindu god, the Vishnu, is of course Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the Trinity that we most of the time we talk about. So what are these 10 avatars? Here you can see the Matsya, the Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, Vaman, Parashuram, Ram, Balram. Sometimes Krishna will be shown, sometimes Balram will be shown, then Buddha, and the Kalki is the future avatar, which has to, still come to this earth, right? Probably after this particular era or the yuga or the Kal Yuga comes to an end. Okay. So this is how it is. And similarly, according to the Pancharatra Vaishnavagam, we also have the Chaturvyuhas, the 4 aspects of Vaikuntha Vishnu, which are Vasudev, Anirudh, Pradyuman, and Shankarshan. Okay, so they are, and here we are seeing those 4 faces, although on screen we can only see 3. One is, of course, at the back. And sometimes Hegriva is also part of this particular group of 4 Vyuhas of Vishnu. Then we also have 24 names, Chaturvinsh aspects of Vishnu from Vishnu Sahasranam. The 4 cognizances or the attributes of Vishnu, the Shankh, Chakra, Gada, Padma, as we know. There are various permutation and combinations in the 4 hands of Vishnu, how they are being held. And this is how we get the 24 different divinities, or the Chaturvinsh aspects of Vishnu, the Keshav, Narayan, Madhav, Govind, Madhusudan, Trivikrama, Janardana, all these, etc., etc., Hari, Shri Krishna, Upendra, these are all different aspects of Vishnu as per the Vishnu Sahasranam. So here we are seeing the Venugopal is another name, and Janardana. So these are, of course, the very famous Keshwa temple I'm trying to show you. Then Narsingh avatar is very, very popular of Vishnu, where you have the anthropomorphic form of Vishnu. When I say anthropomorphic, where the body is that of a man and the face is that of an animal, all right, half man and half. So the very iconography is Narsingha or Narsim avatar is very, very, important for us to know, because he is responsible for killing of Hiranyakashipu, the demon. And the boons that were granted to Hiranyakashipu was that no man could kill him and no animal could kill him. He could not be killed inside or outside, or in the day or night, or by any kinds of weapon, etc. So, or on the ground or in the air. So, to kill this Hiranyakashipu demon, Vishnu took the form of Narsingh avatar. And if you look at the image very closely, this is the outer niche of the Lakshman temple of the Garbhagriha, and he is killing the demon at the time of twilight, when it is neither day or night. He has put him on his lap, where he is not even on the ground or in the sky or in the air. And also, he is not a man or an animal. It is a conjoined form. And he actually tears up, apart the very stomach of the demon with his, long nails. So in that sense, he has not used any kind of weapon also. So in this sense, I feel that it is very interesting to look at the different divinities and how we, depict them, and to understand as to why, why Narsingha is being depicted in the way that he is being shown here on the screen. And this is also similarly, you are seeing here, do you see the demon? He's lying on the lap of Narsingha here. This is one of the temples from Hoysala period. I think it is the Hoysaleshwara temple. Okay. Then, of course, we have Brahma. Normally, we see him triple-headed, attributes like a kamandalu or a vase, rosary, akshmal, which we call it, a staff, a shruk, the ladle which we use for the offering of some kind of havis or, any anything that we put in the Havan. So Brahma, of course, normally he will preside over all those activities. And that's why these are the attributes that we see. Because Brahma is also the, he also plays the role of the creator. All right. And normally in his Kamandalu, he will have either water or some kind of amrit, the god's nectar of immortality. Here we have the Varaha Avatar. So normally you will not find Varaha Avatar like this in a sthanak or the stationary pose. Normally, you will find him one leg raised, rescuing Bhudevi, and probably in some other, when we look at the temples when we reach, I will show you some more images. Then, of course, here you have a very beautiful sculpture of Garud. Here also you have here he is not shown in the form of a bird. Just these two wings, if you see at the back, very closely you'll have to see. And then a very, very sharp, protruded nose. That's how you recognize that it is Garud, the very Vahan or the mount of Vishnu for that matter. So you can see Vishnu and Lakshmi here probably on his shoulder, on the lotus here. There is a twig of lotus that he's holding in his one hand. And this one, of course, you can recognize Indra. His Vahan is elephant, the Airavat. And one of the attributes that he has in his hand is the Vajra or the thunderbolt. That's how you recognize Indra. Okay. Then most of the time, in fact, foreigners, most of us Indians also, we mistake this image for Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the Trinity. But I'm sorry to say it is not that. It is of course, it is Mahesh Murti, you can call it. Just simply Mahesh Murti. It is not the Trinity Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, which has the different three forms, the Aghora form, the turbulent, the fearsome, the Sadyojit, the central one, and which is, of course, Mahadev, the benign, the meditative form. And this is the Vamdev form, which is very, very mild and pleasing and lovable. This we are showing from Elephanta Caves. Okay. So just as we saw the comparable to the vyuhas or the emanations of Vishnu, in there are 5 faces of Lord Shiva also, Panchanan as he's called, and each one represents the 5 bhutas, the 5 aspects of the created universe, or the space, the water, ether, air, the fire, and of course the earth. Okay. So these 5 faces are respectively the Ishan, the Tatpurush, the Aghora, Vamdev, Sadyojit. And of course, in this image, you can only see 3. One, Ishan is normally, he does not have any kind of form because he represents space or ether. And at the back, of course, you have the Tatpurush. Okay. So it is this deity actually that grants moksha or liberation, it is said that. Okay. Then iconographically, all the 5 aspects of Shiva are shown in many different ways. There are several other aspects of Shiva that we come across and which are being worshipped in Indian temples. And these can be broadly divided into different kinds of categories. So some will be Saumya or Anugraha Murtis, like how we are looking at the Dakshin Murti or the Vikratana Murti, or the Ugra or the Raudra Murti, like the Andhakasur Vad Murti or the Gajantaka, Kalantaka, etc., etc. Or then there are these Ardhnarishwar or the Harihara Murtis, the conjoined forms of Shiva and Vishnu or Shiva and Parvati. And then we also have the different Nritta Murti, the Tandav Murti, where Shiva is shown with, performing different kinds of cosmic dances. So Dakshin Murti is an aspect of Shiva where he is depicted as a guru or a teacher, having all types of knowledge he has. And this aspect of Shiva actually is his personification as the supreme or the ultimate awareness or understanding and knowledge. Okay. And in fact, it is said that it is the just by staying silent, this is how he imparts knowledge to his devotees. Okay. And in fact, this form also represents Shiva as a teacher of yoga, music, wisdom, giving all kinds of exposition of on the Shastras also. Okay. And this is the Bhikshatana, where actually there is a story where he chops off one head of Brahma, and to overcome that that particular deed which was done by Shiva, he actually takes on this form of Bhikshatana, and he wears, just devoid of any clothes, just snake is his, clothing, and in one hand he holds the, kapal, or the empty bowl in one hand, and he's out for just as any kind of bhikshu or a beggar. That this is the form of Shiva that we find, and in the Bhikshatana form. Then there is, it is said that Shiva appeared as a blazing pillar of fire, which was almost immeasurable in size, to destroy the pride of Brahma and Vishnu. So this is called the Lingodbhava Murti. And so on one side you'll have Vishnu, and on the one upper side you'll have Brahma normally, and he's emanating from the Vishnu. Then there is Ravan Anugrah Murti. Here you have Ravan here, and here you have Shiva and Parvati sitting on Mount Kailash. And there is a story when Ravan is trying to pass through Kailash mountain on his celestial, plane, which he had stolen from his brother Kubir. It was, he could not pass through Kailash, and, he put all his might, but Shiva just with, one toe finger of his, he made the entire Kailash stationary. And this is when Ravan actually, he realizes his mistake, and that he starts to, worship Shiva at that time. Okay. So this is Ravan Anugrah Murti. Then, of course, you have the Shiva and Parvati here. Another aspect of Shiva is the Tripurantaka Shiva, where he is responsible for destroying 3 cities, 3 Pura, with one arrow. Okay. Then, of course, this is the Ardhanarishwar Murti, where we have the conjoined form of Purush and Prakriti here that we spoke about earlier. And this is the conjoined form of Vishnu and Shiva. Okay, so on one side you will have the attributes of, here you have the Shankh here, whereas this side you are having the Parshu here. All right, the battle axe. Okay. Then there are some, many images. We have that of Durga, or the Mahishasur Mardini. The very name Mahishasur Mardini is somebody who's responsible for the killing of the Asur Mahishasur. So here you see Mahishasur again in an anthropomorphic form. He is shown as a human with a Mahisha, or the Mahisha is actually a male buffalo. So that's the head that he's having here. And he's actually humongous, and we will see how the Asuras are there, in art, what kind of measurement that they should have. And here we have the Devi, she's sitting on her Vahan. The lion Vahan is here. And her retinue, the army of Ganas, etc., are attacking. And they are kind of receding back. You can see by the army of this Asur, they are kind of receding, and the Devi is marching forward, and she's 10-armed Devi here. She's holding all different kinds of weapons with the bow and arrow in these 2 hands, and almost ready to shoot the arrow and kill Mahishasur here. Okay. Then, of course, some of the Nagas or the Nagini figures are also much prevalent, especially in Orisen temple walls. We find them in great numbers. And this, of course, we are looking at the sculpture of Gajalakshmi. Gajalakshmi, normally we will see, she's seated in Padmasana here, in lotus posture, on a lotus throne also. And she's holding 2 lotus buds in her 2 hands. And she's being lustrated by 2 guardians of the Diggaja, as we call them, of the directions. The 2 elephants here are pouring all kinds of lustrous water on the Devi here. So sometimes you will find this image also on the Lalat Bing, and which is also, it serves the same purpose as we spoke about the 2 river goddesses, the Ganga and the Yamuna. Okay. So having spoken about these various deities, now we will talk about how they can be made, or what should be the measurement, and what should go into making of these icons. Okay. So various ancient texts have, have tell us the laws governing all the different art forms, and be it sculpture or painting, how these idols or the icons need to be made. So this is a very, very famous shlok from the Kama Sutra, Vatsayan's Kama Sutra. Now, you will, many of you may, question as to what this has to do with Kama Sutra. So let me tell you, we always have a very, very myopic view of any text. When I say Kama Sutra, it does not only talk about the sexual pleasures of life. There is a lot more to it. And here it says, Roop Bhed Pramanani Bhav Lavanya Yojanam Sadrishya Varnika Bhang Iti Chitram Shadangakam. So, of course, it basically talks about painting. But as I said, Vishnu Dharmotar Puran and all the other texts, Natya Shastra also for that matter, says that all these laws, they apply equally to all the different art forms for that matter. So according to this, Roop Bhed is the variety of form, Praman is the proper proportion, Uttam, Madhyam and Adham Prakriti that we will talk about. Bhava is the depiction of emotion. Lavanya Yojana is the infusion of grace in any particular icon. Then Sadrishya is the verisimilitude. So Sadrishya we say, we do not say exact, look alike, which is a typical feature of Western art. In Indian art, we always say sadrishyam or verisimilitude, whereby it should have the essence or the bhava or the very concept of the deity, or the concept that the deity is trying to represent. All right. So when I say, when we look at, say, Ganesh, all right. So Ganesh has this elephant trunk, but it does not mean that there is actually somebody who has an elephant trunk, right? So it is basically what it denotes. That's what is most very, very important. So that's why we say Sadrishya. So, and Varnika Bhang is, of course, mixing of colors, which basically is a property of making of the painting of these different divinities, right? Okay. Then there is Vishnu Dharmotar Puran, which I have been repeatedly talking about. It talks about the various different gunas or the properties of art, the appropriate stance, the proportion, the background, the very, sweet execution, distinctive symmetries, semblance to the original, and foreshortening. These are some of the merits of any form of art, be it sculpture or painting, right? So this San, Praman, Bhulam, Madhurat, Vibhakta, Sadrishyam, Kshay. Kshay Vriddhi is actually the foreshortening, whereby you try to impart some kind of three-dimensionality to a medium, or in, say, in a relief panel also, you're trying to induce some kind of depth or sense of perspective. So, what are the different stances where how we find different icons? So, sthan is the proper position of the body. So, which when the figures are in rest, you can have the sambhanga, which is or sampad, where this is actually the sampad position, where both the legs and the hands are in straight line. Then you have Abhanga, where some part of the body is kind of moving. And then you can have a Tribhanga, like you have the image of Krishna when he's playing the flute. His body is kind of flexed 3 times, so Tribhanga. Or you can have Atibhanga also, yeah, how you have the icon of Nataraj, where you have many, torsions and the folds of the body, right? So that will be called then Atibhanga. And then you can have the contraposto pose. Most of the time you will have Bodhisattva, where weight of your body is more on one leg than and the other leg actually is straight. Then you have, of course, there are images which are shown in motion, right? So in motion, how do we see? Motion we can only see by foreshortening or Kshayvriddhi, where the entire body will not be seen. Only then we say that, yes, the body is in motion. So then there are these, basically, there are 9 auspicious forms of the movement, which are, which have been talked about in Vishnu Dharmottar Puran. So these are the 5, and when the Parshvagat, all right, the total profile will actually slowly start moving, you will get the opposite of this, right? The Prishthagat, the backside, it will arrive. So in that sense, these are the 9 different stances, or the postures of the body that you will get in any kind of icon, or the types of different postures or proportions are also, they're actually, I will say they are very, very important when anybody's trying to make an icon. Okay. Then there is another new word that we will learn today, iconometry, which is the talman. What is the proportion as compared to the face, how big the body should be? So earlier times, it used to be measured in terms of the talas. So this I'm showing you, this is 1 tal, which is almost, has the length of the 12 anguls. And the 12 anguls are basic, 1 angul is the 3 yavas. Yavas are these 3, 3 parts of a fingers. Each one is called a yava. So 1 angul is 3 yavas, or it's also another unit is the kal also, or half a kala. And 1/4 of a tala is also called ansh, or it is equal to 3 anguls. So we say that the texts tell us actually how different deities have to have different kind of measurements, how big the face has to be. So there are actually, a human being should be shown as 8, the length should be, the height should be the 8 tal, or the terrible, ferocious looking man, he has to be 12 talas, or the asuras or the demons should be 16 talas. A small infantile child should be 5 tals, or the kumar or the juvenile person should be shown as 6 talas. And that's why according to these measurements also, they are called the Uttam Prakriti or Madhyama Prakriti or Adham Prakriti. So the Danvas and the Daityas, they will definitely come under the Adham Prakriti. They will normally be shown with knit brows, circular bulging eyes, terrible visage they will have, or a very, very flamboyant dressing, right? Then, of course, there are other celestial beings, Vidyadharas, etc., which move in pairs in the air. Yeah, okay. So, Uttam, actually, Navtalas are assigned to the, presentation of the deities normally, which is divided into 9 equal talas. It refers to the ideal proportion of various deities. And all the kings also should be made with this, because we know that kings also almost we equate them to we attribute all the Mahapurush Lakshanas to the kings also. Then there are different postures of the body. I have already spoken about the Sambhang, Dabhang. Okay, the Pad Swastika. Alida pose is standing, left leg stretched, right leg front and bent. How you have if you think of Hanuman, one front leg is always bent and the posterior leg is always stretched, right? Then you have Yogasan, the yogic position, the Virasan, heroic position, Raj Leelasana, the royal position. One leg is drawn up, the other hangs down relaxedly. We'll see some pictures from where it can become very, very clear. Lalitasan, Gopalasan, Pretasan, Veerasan. This is Utkatasan. Padmasan is the lotus posture, etc. Then these are some of the other. So here, when one is sitting in this, the Pad Pralamba Asan, Sukhasan, you can say, Maharaj Leela Asan. These are some of the names of these various postures. Then these are some of the Hast Mudras also, we can say that. So Katyavlambit, so your hand is resting on the on your kati or waist, or Bhumi Sparsh, which is very prevalent in Buddhist parlance. One hand is touching the ground, or Gaja Hasta, almost, in the shape of an elephant trunk there. Okay. So some of the hand gestures, so the Gyan gesture is there like this. Then Tarjani Mudra is like as if you're, pointing downwards, which is kind of, you are expressing some kind of threat or warning. So most of the Dwarpalas you will find in South India, they will be shown in this Tarjani Mudra. Vismay is, of course, your kind of gesture of wonder. Vitark is when you're lecturing, all right, or transmitting some kind of knowledge. And Anjali is, of course, folded hands. It could be like this or like this also. Dhyan Mudra is, of course, when you are sitting and meditating. All right. And then there are some other mudras also that we can talk about. The Abhay. Abhay is this, fear not. And then Varad is your granting of boon here. Gyan Mudra, Katak, when you are holding something, that's called a Katak Mudra, etc., etc. Okay. Then these are some of the attributes that we find most of the deities they are holding in their hands. The lotus, the damru, the danda, the gada, mriga, the darpan or the mirror, the nag, the trishul, the pash. All these are different things that we find, the pataka, etc., the khadag. Now we will talk about another aspect, iconology. Some of it we have already been talking about. So now, what is the meaning of iconology? Iconology, I told you, the meaning or the study of the symbols or the attributes. So Shiva's dance actually indicates a continuous process of creation, preservation, and destruction. Several other dancing postures actually of Shiva, like the Anand Tandav Murti or the Chatura pose or Uma Tandav, Urdhva Tandav, Tripura Tandav Murti, all these are also we get to see in art, which are mentioned in different agamas. Okay. So, of course, Shiva is the great master of dance. That's why he's called the Nataraja also. And all the 108 modes of karnas, they actually are known to be the treatises on the dancing, which have come straight directly from Shiva himself. So now, when we look at this sculpture of Nataraj, the bronze sculpture, what is the symbolism here? So surrounding Shiva, we see a circle of flames, which represents the universe, whose fire is held in Shiva's this hand here, we can see. His left hand here, it crosses his chest, the hand, this one, pointing to the Gajahasta here, right? And this one leg here, which is raised, which signifies liberation. This other foot, which tramples this, demon or the dwarf Apasmar, which represents ignorance here. Shiva's right hand here is raised in fear not, Abhay Mudra, benediction, while his right rear hand holds the drum here at the top, you will see. The other hand is holding a drum here, okay, which actually is the symbol of creation. The snake, an emblem of Shiva, also curls around him, his arms here. And also he holds a crescent moon, another emblem that we have, a small Ganga, which you will find on the head of Shiva normally, sorry, here, which actually the flow of which was broken by the matted locks or the Jatajut of Shiva. We'll talk about it when we talk about the Gangadhar Murti later. Okay. Fine. So this actually what I meant by iconology. When we are looking at some icon and we are trying to decipher what are the different attributes that the icon has and how they are kind of those symbols, how can you interpret them? So this is a very beautiful Shiva, Vrishabh Vahana and Parvati. Probably there was a Vrishabha here, the Vahan of Shiva here. And these are all bronze sculptures that I'm trying to show you. His, his one arm is resting against the Vahana, the bull here, and you have Parvati here. And this is the Kati Hasta or Katyavalambit, right? And this is the Katak Hasta, where she's trying to hold, probably there was a lotus flower in her hand here. Okay. Then, of course, the two, both the bronze sculptures we are looking at, this is the Bhikshatana Shiva, the naked beggar that I spoke about earlier. Padsara, here, these are all the different things that how you are recognizing that this is Bhikshatana Shiva. Then, of course, the Kalyan Sundar Murti, the marriage of Shiva and Parvati, has a very different kind of group iconography, whereby on one side you have Vishnu here and an associate of Parvati standing here, and Shiva's hand is there in Parvati's hand here. So this is addressed as or known as the Kalyan Sundar Murti. Then this group of bronze sculptures, it's called the Somskanda or the family of Shiva. It is interesting to note that in South India, the family of Shiva mainly comprises of Shiva, Parvati and Skanda or Kartikeya. Whereas in North India, we give a lot of importance to Ganesh. And in some temples, you will find both their sons, Ganesh and Skanda or Kartikeya, present as a group of family. And the Karand Mukut is also another very typical feature of Shiva's, the crown. Karand means almost in the form of a basket, I would say that, yeah. The Makar Kundal, etc. Then this is the Shiva Gajasanghara Murti, the Ugra form of Shiva. And it is said, in fact, in Kurma Puran, it is said that there was an Asura, okay, in the an elephant form of Asur. In fact, Gaja is also, sometimes it is, the ignorance is also sometimes be equated with the elephant sometimes, okay, which actually acquired all kinds of powers, and it was Shiva who came and killed him. So here you can find a very, very subdued elephant here, and he tears open the very skin of the elephant and he wears it all around him. So this is the iconography of Gajantaka or Gajasanghara Shiva. You will find this normally with two of his hands, he's holding the skin of the elephant here. Then, of course, you have the Tripurantaka. This is not really a very, I would say, typical image of Tripurantaka. This is when he's not in action, probably, because normally you will find Tripurantaka when he has actually stretched the bow of the, and he's almost ready to kill the three demons who were residing in the three cities, celestial cities. Then Shiva playing the Veenadhar Shiva. When all the hustle bustle of this universe is subsided and brought to a standstill, and this is when Shiva plays his Veena and hears the rhythm and the sweet sound of scriptures or the Vedas, and again recreates the cosmos. Yeah. So, in fact, there is a lot of confusion in many, people's or students or normal person's mind as to if we are saying Trinity, the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, then why are we saying Shiva is the, all three in one? So in their different aspects, I would say, just as a man can be a father, a son, a grandfather, he can be a businessman. Similarly, I think you need to have this perspective when we are talking about Indian gods and goddesses. And also, unlike the Britishers who made a lot of fun about the Indian gods and goddesses, the multi-headed, multi-armed, they almost demon-like gods they have. But it is actually the various aspects, the various attributes, the various powers that they imbibe within themselves. And that's how, we end up looking at multi-headed gods or multi-headed, multi-armed gods and goddesses, or for that matter, the same god is responsible for many, many different aspects of life for that matter. Okay. So Shiva's consort, of course, here, Parvati, she's shown in. So this is the contrapposto pose or the abhanga, where she's not, sampad. She's not standing straight. Okay, and this is, of course, the Utkatik Asana, where she's in a kind of pose of ease here, seated Parvati, you can see here. This is Bhudevi, and this again, of course, is the seated Lakshmi here. So without having a context, actually, it is very difficult to recognize these deities, because sometimes we will recognize them, there's some kind of inscription which is there, or it is part of some bigger, sculptural group, or the place where the find place where it was, discovered. And these are some of the different, ways that we can find, or we know that this is Parvati or Lakshmi for that matter. So this is the bronze sculpture of Ardhanarishvara, the conjoined form of Purush and Prakriti. This is, of course, the Maheshwari, the beautiful realization of Shiva in his female form. She's also one of the Saptamatrikas. Okay. And here we have the young Krishna subduing the snake demon, Kaliya, the Kaliya Mardhan Krishna, by dancing on his outstretched, hoods. Okay. So, of course, it is also very important for all of us to know the background stories. Only then can we enjoy looking at these icons, or we can make some kind of sense from these. Yeah. Then these are also some of the, one more Uma's image I want to show you, the posterior and the front. And you can see how immaculately she's bejeweled. And probably at a later time, we will also talk about, I will also tell you the different names of all the ornaments that she's wearing. Very, very beautiful and very intricately carved. Yeah. Then, of course, the Alingan Murti, this is called, when Shiva and Parvati are almost in this position, the Mithun position, which I called you, which we spoke about. Then this is the Urdhva Tandav. Urdhva Tandav is when one leg of Shiva is raised in the air. And of course, you can easily go online and check out, the different stories which are there. It is not possible for me to tell you all the stories about what actually what kind of episode or story is responsible for the image that we are looking at. Okay. Then, of course, there are different iconographies of various Shaiv saints, especially in South India, the 63 Nayanars, or the Nayanamars as they are called, and the Vaishnav saints, the Alvars, the 12 Alvars, right? And they were the poets actually between 5th and 10th centuries. And they came from different backgrounds, kings, soldiers, untouchables. And in fact, they saw deity in more human terms and fostered this tradition of portable images to be worshipped by the masses. And also one of the reasons, and in fact, these saints themselves also became the subjects of sculptures and worship themselves. So in many of the Dravidian temples, especially in Tamil Nadu, you will find many of these saints are kind of deified inside the temple for worship, right? So, in fact, this is when the concept of the Chalamurtis, came in. The Utsav Bheras or the Utsav Murtis, because this was the time when there was some kind of a decline in the Vedic religion or the Brahminic religion, and to kind of reinvent this religion. Especially, we all know Shankaracharya did a lot to revitalize Hindu religion, and also these saints, the Alvars or the Nayanamars. So if if people have stopped coming to the temple can go to the people, and that's how these these yatras or the Ustav Bheras were organized, and they will go from one street to the other, singing all kinds of religious hymns, etc., in the praise of the Lord. Then, of course, the typical iconography of Ganesh, the Modak, the Mushak, the elephant trunk, the Akshmal, and there are many, many different aspects of Ganesh that we can look at. Then, of course, this is, of course, Buddha is also one of the 10 incarnations, and this image normally we mistake for that of Buddha, but this is the Yogeshwar Vishnu. You can see the two aspects, two attributes, the Shankh and the Chakra, the conch and the disc that we attach with Vishnu here. The Vajanti Mal is very much present here. A very, very beautiful image of Vishnu here. And similarly, just as we have seen so many images today, there are different iconographies of the Ashtadikpalas, the Saptamatrikas, the Navgrahas. We will know as we proceed, when we look at different temples in future sessions, and we'll encounter them in different temples, and we will talk about the iconography of all that we have not covered today. And accordingly, in Buddhism, you have the Buddha iconography, the Bodhisattva like Maitreyi, Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani is, shown with the Vajra, the different taras, the green tara, the white tara, the Jain hagiography, the Mahapurush by Jinsen lists almost, not almost exactly, the 63, the Trishashti Shalak Purush, the Mahapurush, the 24 Tirthankars, the 12 Chakravartis, the 9 Vasudevas, the 9 Prati Vasudevas, the 9 Balramas, and they all have their own kind of iconography. Each Tirthankar has been, given a chinha. Mahavir is shown with a lion, etc., etc. So I think with this, I'm going to conclude. I could not have, compressed it more than this. I mean, it's a very, very vast subject, and there is lot more that we can all learn when in this subject. Yeah. So with this, I think I'm going to conclude this today's session. Thank you very much. Yeah.
नमस्कार। आपने बहुत ही विस्तार से बहुत सारे विषय पर और बहुत सारे प्रतिमाओं पर प्रकाश डाला। बहुत सारे जिज्ञासुओं ने प्रश्न भी पूछे हैं। समय काफी हो चुका है और आप कुछ एक दो प्रश्न के जवाब देना चाहेंगे तो आप जो चैट बॉक्स है उसमें से एक आध दो प्रश्न का उत्तर दे सकती हो।
Okay. Yeah, Pancharatha temple structure. So Pancharatha temple is actually, somebody has tried to answer, main temple surrounded by 4 subsidiary shrines. So actually it is not that. It is actually very confusing because of the Pancharatha. So Panchayatan, that's the word when you have 4 subsidiary shrines in 4 corners and the main shrine is in the center. Ayatan means the houses. Ayatan, we always say any kind of structure. So when we say any temple is Panchayatan, then it is that the main temple is there in the center and it is surrounded by 4 subsidiary shrines. So Pancharatha temple is something quite different. Pancharatha is the main temple itself, where we are talking about the different offsets of the wall of the Garbhagriha. I showed you right in the beginning, one niche was there, one projection was there, right? On one wall of the Garbhagriha, we just saw Vishnu lying on that Anant Shesh. Okay. And likewise, that was one of the very early temples, Gupta temple I was trying to show you. The later temples, say for instance, Khajuraho or Kalinga or Brihadishwara temple for that matter, there'll be many offsets that you see on the wall, right? On the Garbhagriha. On the center, you will have one. Then there'll be Pratiratha, the Karnas. So there'll be sometimes 5 offsets or 7 offsets also, say like in the case of Kandarya Mahadev in the Khajuraho temples, dedicated to Shiva, or Lakshman temple in Khajuraho will be Pancharatha, which means that the wall, the one side of the wall has 5 projections. Okay. So of course, I will show you when we come there, and when I'm talking about these temples, I will show you the graphic presentation of these temples, and it'll be much easier for you to understand these different terminology. Yeah.
एक और प्रश्न ले लीजिए आप कोई संक्षेप में.
Yeah. Let me see. So a deer in Shiva's hand, what it shows? It also shows the, I would say, जो चपलता एक होती है ना, devoid of that स्थिर जिसको हम कहते हैं ना, in any human mind. Today we are attracted to this, now we want to this, we want to go for a movie. No, the movie is not good. Let's do something else. So we are just going from one, pleasure-seeking activity to another, right? So in a very modern context, I thought I'll explain to you. So Shiva is the one who is holding that. He beautifully controls that. He's sthir bhava. Okay, that's what it controls. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
बस अब यहाँ समाप्त करते हैं. बाकी के प्रश्नों का उत्तर आप बाद में ले लीजिएगा. मैं विजय जी को आमंत्रित करूंगा आभार विधि के लिए, और फिर हम
I will suggest one thing. We can form a WhatsApp group and you can pose your questions there. And probably because if we run out of time, I can always answer those questions. And should I write my email in the chat box? Yeah. And you can also email me.
मैडम, हम लोग व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बना लेंगे और फिर सबको उसमें ज्वाइन कर लेंगे. आप और उत्तर उसी से द्वारा सबसे संपर्क में रहेंगे, तो सबको पता चलेगा कि कौन से प्रश्न पूछे गए, कौन उसका क्या उत्तर है, वो सब.
राइट.
मैं फिर से मैम को धन्यवाद देता हूँ, साथ ही श्रोताओं को, और जिन लोगों ने प्रश्न पूछे हैं उससे पता चलता है कि कितने ध्यान से लोग हमारा व्याख्यान सुन रहे हैं, तो उनको भी मैं धन्यवाद दे रहा हूँ. साथ ही हमारा जो अगला सेशन होगा उसमें बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण होगा, क्योंकि हम लोग अब आगे से गुप्ता पीरियड के जो टेम्पल्स हैं उसका परिचय लेंगे. तो मैम के धन्यवाद के साथ ही मैं फिर से उन अपने प्रायोजकों के प्रति और उनका नाम भी लेना पसंद करूंगा कि श्री राजकुमार जी ओसवाल, श्री निर्मल भोगीलाल जी मुंबई, और स्मृति शेष डॉक्टर धनेश जी की स्मृति में उनके परिवार को तथा श्री राजकुमारी सुमेर चंद जी के परिवार को भी हम लोग हार्दिक धन्यवाद देते हैं कि उनके सौजन्य से यह कार्यक्रम हो पा रहा है. और हमारे भाई जी हमको जो समय दे रहे हैं और उसमें पूरा मार्गदर्शन दे रहे हैं, उनके प्रति भी धन्यवाद, और मैम को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. इसी शब्दों के साथ में हम लोग का कार्यक्रम यही समाप्त करते हैं. जय जिनेंद्र सभी को.